Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, we are living in a very, very tough time right now. We've just elected a president, and this president has a very strong philosophy about economics. But it's very important that we understand how we can save our money and how to make money. And my guest today is Jared R. Wesley. He's the co-founder of Live Traders and a professional trader with more than 11 years of experience. He was drawn to the technical side of the markets upon becoming frustrated after spending time on a buying side institutional trading desk at a large Wall Street bank. Now, we're going to have lots of questions to ask him in the aftermath of this election, and also how he got started and why he thinks that trading is a very important thing. So I want to welcome to my show Jared R. Wesley.
Hi, Susan. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, Jared, okay, let's start with this. You joined this Live Traders company. Now, you were involved in trading for many, many years. Why this particular company?
Well, to be honest with you, Susan, I co-founded this company, and one of the reasons is because I was so frustrated with a lot of what goes on in Wall Street and so on and so forth. It's just a small sampling. There's supposed to be, quote, Chinese walls where one department doesn't talk to another department, the investment bankers don't talk to the traders, et cetera, and so forth. And I just found from working on Wall Street that those things just aren't true. So there's a lot of things that people probably don't want to know about that happen every day, and everybody says the market's rigged, et cetera. And in a lot of ways it is. So I wanted to start a company that told people the truth, that allowed people to have a fair chance at perhaps beating the market.
Okay. For that part, for the part of the trading situation, there are many people who don't understand various ways to trade. So I want you to define the ways that you can buy, you can sell. So start off with options. Tell our audience what is options, and then let's discuss various other words, things like puts and calls and things of that nature. So give us some definitions of things people should know about.
Well, to be honest with you, I focus mainly on stock trading. I don't do a lot of options trading, so I'm not an options expert per se in that field. But options is just one more vehicle that people can use to trade the stock market, just like they can use futures, E-minis, they can use Forex, et cetera, and so forth. So it's just one more vehicle that they can use to hedge some of their trades, et cetera, and so forth. But like I said, I'm not an expert in that area, so I don't want to lead people in the wrong direction, so to speak.
So let's talk about some of your strategies that you use to generate income for people every day.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we teach is that investing in the markets is real. This isn't a game. Some people come in and they think, oh, this is, traders or investors are a bunch of gamblers and they should leave that to professionals. Well, I was, quote, a professional at a large Wall Street bank, and to be honest, they're not quite as smart as you might think they are. Their ego drives them, and sometimes they just have so much money backing them that they don't play by the same rules. So for us, one of the things that we teach new folks that want to learn how to trade or invest is to start very, very small, because in the beginning, you simply don't know what it is that you're doing. You have to learn a lot. Not only about the technical charts that we use and the patterns that we teach, but the biggest obstacle, and I can't stress this enough, the biggest obstacle that people have to overcome to successfully invest and trade the market is themselves. There's no room for ego in this business. The market doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about me. It just is. It's an entity that just is. And that's a really good thing, because your boss isn't going to look at you and go, oh, my gosh, I don't like the neighborhood you live in, or I don't like that you're short or that you're tall or that you have brown hair. The market doesn't care. And that's a good thing. But it's also difficult because everything is back on you. There's no blame game. You make a decision, you live with a decision. A lot of people let their ego trade for them,
Right.
and gets them in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So I would recommend to new folks, start slow, start with very small amounts of money till you understand the emotional ups and downs that you're going to go through.
Yeah. Now, how does one choose a trader? Because there are so many traders that exist all over the world. Is there a reason they would choose you over someone else? But let's start with how they choose somebody.
Well, that's a really great question. You're right. Especially in today's internet age, there are quite a few people out there, and anybody can open up a business if they choose. And one of the things you want to look for, a couple things, but one is anything that says get rich quick, or I can teach you to be a millionaire in 30 days, or whatever it may be, I would run away from that. Two, if they're not going to show their results, or at least give you, a verified statement of some kind, telling somebody that you made 15% last year is great, but showing them is a lot better. So those are two big things. And then the third one I would say is, even when you have both of those things, you still need to find a level of comfortability. For example, it's a little off topic, but it makes the point. Mm-hmm. When you choose a wealth manager, right, say you have lots of money and you want somebody to just oversee everything, right. It's not just performance-based, it's comfortability-based. You see the world the same way, so to speak. So those three things I think are important.
Mm-hmm. Now, you just mentioned something very interesting, which is that sometimes there are people out there who promise you big things. I mean, we've had plenty of cases, and I suppose you know who I'm alluding to when I talk about somebody who was really a horrible person when it came to giving or helping people make money. He stole everything, and now he's in jail. So, I am so interested in knowing that. How is there a way to find out a little bit about the trader? How does somebody investigate who they're going to trade with?
Well, keep in mind two things, Susan. One, there's two sides to this. There are investment advisors that will actually trade for you, and if so, they need to be licensed. And then there are people that will simply teach you how to trade, but you physically make those trades or take those trades, which then puts the responsibility on yourself. So there's a big divide there. I mean, if somebody says buy Microsoft and you say, okay, and that's the extent of it, you can't really blame that person. You have to blame yourself for doing due diligence. Where if it's a professional investment advisor, you give them complete autonomy over your account, mm-hmm. then they become responsible for those decisions and you have recourse. So there is a difference there. But when it comes to trading, one of the things that we do is we teach people the proper way to trade and invest, and a big part of that is proper money management, okay? Too many people, they want too much too soon. They want the grand slam home runs instead of the singles and doubles, which is what keeps you afloat in this business and ultimately creates huge wealth. So I would recommend to them, stay away from the huge talkers, and go slow in the beginning. Like I said earlier, start very, very small and work your way up when you feel comfortable.
Yeah. What do you attribute to the fact that people had this trust for Madoff? That's the person I was alluding to. Was it his charisma? Was it his way of dealing, essentially? Why would people give so much money to a guy like that? I mean,
it's a great question, Susan, and I'll tell you why. It's human nature. The one thing that we do, we make decisions based on various things. One of those things we make decisions based upon is trust. So, for example, Susan, just as a hypothetical, if you had a friend that was worth $200 million and you knew that friend for 20 years and found that person to be very trustworthy, and that person came to you and said, Susan, this guy Bernie Madoff is the best investment advisor I've ever used. He gives me a 10% return every year. Mm-hmm. You would have no reason to not believe that person. You've known them 20 years. They've done extremely well for themselves, and you're saying, wow, I'm getting this advice from a trusted person that I respect. Well, all it takes is a few of those people, and then it trickles down to everybody else. So when Bernie had a lot of those big-time clients, billionaire clients, why wouldn't you believe them?
Right, that's true. Now, what about the trickle-down thing? Everybody hears that our government is best when there's a trickle-down financial situation. So would you define that and tell us more about it?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Obviously that depends on which side of the political realm you feel. Do trickle-down economics work? I'm a big believer in responsibility, self-responsibility, and making your own way in life. But I will admit, having owned my own business, that you definitely need small businesses, medium-sized businesses to, I guess, be on the same page as government. And the reason being is, if not, what's the motivation for them to hire more people and grow their business if they feel you're just going to tax the heck out of them? Right. And think of it also in that if you hire more people, your business is paying more into society, and that's that trickle-down idea.
Right.
I hire somebody, pay them $100,000 a year. They go spend that $100,000 a year buying a house, buying groceries, and then that trickles down to the person who works at the grocery store, the mortgage broker, et cetera. And that's the idea behind trickle-down economics. Some people disagree that it works. Mm-hmm. I'm not an economist in that sense, but I'm a big believer in people not worrying about that and just going out, and if you have a goal or a dream, go make it happen, because I think in today's society, I hate to say it, but we've become a country filled with victims.
Yeah.
Everybody's a victim of something.
Yeah.
Well, life isn't perfect. You have to make your way.
Now, a sure sign that you're on the path to trading success, how do you know when? Many people, they don't know. I mean, they're just, they think about the person whom they're investing with, and they say, and I'm one of them, by the way, I look at my trader, my financial advisor as well, and I say to myself, well, they know everything. I know nothing. I try to do a little bit of research, but it's, very difficult for me to really make a decision about what to invest in. But they do. So if you're investing, give me an answer to a sure sign that you're on the path to trading success.
Okay, so before that, I'll touch upon one important thing, and I think this goes in all facets of life. And my parents said this to me when I was a teenager. Doctors are people too. We always hold doctors in high regard. I say, well, doctors are people too. What does that mean? Doctors make mistakes too. That also means that just because you hear something from a doctor doesn't mean it's true. Go do your own due diligence. So to your point about investing in investment advisors, yes, theoretically they should have more knowledge than you because that's what they do for a living, but they don't always make great decisions. They do make mistakes. So they present an idea to you and it just doesn't feel right. Ask them to explain it, and if you're still not comfortable, simply don't do it. I'm a big believer in communication. Right. And this is what I said earlier. You have to have an advisor that you see eye to eye with and somebody that communicates with you very clearly, because there's no question, 100%, you will be at odds once in a while with your investment advisor or your trader at some point in your life. Not everything goes perfect. It's very challenging, to your point, because there are so many out there, and everybody's going to give you a statistic sheet that says they beat the market and they did this and they did that. So meet with your advisor and make sure you're on the same page. Some people are aggressive, some people are less aggressive. And then just, again, make sure that they're investing in a way that you feel is with your ideological views, if that makes sense.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Now, let's take a look at the political situation that we're in now. Trump has won, and some people think he's going to be a great president when it comes to economics, and he's going to surround himself by amazing people. And other people think that he's going to really, I hate to use the word, well, I'm not going to use the word because it's not such a nice word, but they think that he's going to ruin the economic situation. What's your take on that?
I take a step back from all of that, and I'll tell you why. Markets, and I study markets, and like I said, I work on Wall Street, and I've done a lot of analytics on these things. Markets are cyclical. I'm not saying that presidents and governments don't affect markets. They do. But if you take a look, the market's been up for some 8 or 9 straight years right now. The all-time record for a winning streak in the market is 9 years. Well, that tells me I don't care if Mother Teresa was elected or Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or whomever, that winning streak is coming to an end at some point soon, because in the last 150 years, it's never done better than 9 years. Why would it do so now? Is it possible? Sure. It's just less likely. So I would expect in the next 12 to 18 months to see a market pullback. Now, does that mean that Donald Trump will be bad for the market? Not necessarily, but I don't care who's in office. The market needs a pullback, and this is one of the beauties of looking at charts. I don't look at the president. I look at the chart, and the chart shows the flow of money from institutions, hedge funds, average people, 401ks, pension plans, and then I use that chart to determine. With that, I look at historical figures and say, whoa, 9 years in a row, I'm pulling back a little bit now. You know, I'm going to be more in catch than I would have been 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
So I don't get as much involved in the political environment as I do about the market cycles that we see.
So you look at the fundamentals, is that right?
Well, no. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't. I look at mostly the technicals, and I'll tell you why. There are a lot of great companies out there that have pretty good fundamentals, and their chart looks like crap. I mean, a good example of that, General Electric. They were at $50 or $60 in 08, 09. They're at about, what, $30-some now?
Right.
So almost 10 years later, they're still worth 60%. A company like Apple's up tenfold, but GE's got really good fundamentals. Citigroup, pretty good fundamentals. Their stock is junk. AIG, I don't know about their fundamentals, but their stock is junk too. I mean, WorldCom, MCI, Enron, they all had good fundamentals until they didn't. Right, so I don't look at the fundamentals. I look at the chart. Right. And when I look at a company like GE, if you ask me about the fundamentals, I'd say this is a solid company run by good people, but the chart doesn't reflect that. I go with the chart.
I hear you. Now, how much are we influenced by what goes on in other countries? So, for example, if Japan is doing well or Europe, different parts of Europe are doing very well, you know, do we invest in stocks that are part of that world society's different companies? You know, what about?
Well, well, for trading purposes, no, not much. It doesn't matter much. Those markets are not terribly liquid. Sometimes, some of them are. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are very liquid. Some of them are not. I'm a big believer that the U.S. market leads the world market most of the time. However, if you divide the investing and the trading, for traders, doesn't much matter. For investors, if you have a 6, 12, 18, 24-month outlook or longer, I would highly recommend that you have some type of international ETF or some type of international fund in your account. I mean, diversification is very, very important. So absolutely, I would have an emerging markets fund or something like that in there. I wouldn't make it a huge percentage of my portfolio, but it would definitely be in there.
Yeah. And what about oil? I want you to explain to our audience how oil really affects the market. Does it go if the oil goes down? Do you buy stocks, or if the oil goes up, do you sell them? How does that work?
That's a fantastic question, Susan. And about 7 to 10 years ago, there was almost an exact direct correlation between what you just said. Oil goes down, market goes up, and vice versa. In the last 3 to 5 years, I just have not noticed that correlation to be the same. You know, you look at oil has been really hit pretty badly here in the last year and a half. Good for us, I guess. Gas prices are down. And the market, honestly, hasn't been doing that well up until the election year. I mean, since the election, it's up 6 or 7%. But if you take that segment, that 2 or 3 week span out, the market's been very mediocre the last couple of years, and yet oil's been getting hammered. Does that make sense? So there was not a direct correlation between oil dropping and the market shooting through the moon.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to know whether it's different for men and women who invest in stocks. Do women invest in a different way than men, or is it the same thing?
As traders, women I find to be better. it doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. They always men are from Mars, women are from Venus, women are more emotional. Well, I find women control their emotions far better when it comes to trading. I can't answer it. I don't know why. I guess they're just better at listening to directions. They follow directions better than men do. Men don't want to stop for directions when they're lost. Women will. I would say that's part of it. When it comes to investing, I haven't noticed a big difference in men or women because I find them both to be slightly more emotional. I think women do their homework better, their due diligence. I think they do a better job of than men. So in that respect, I'd probably give an edge to women. But in terms of both men and women, I think they rely on things that aren't important. When your taxi cab driver starts talking about Apple or your neighbor starts talking about Facebook, you don't listen. That's what people do, and that's what I mean by people are, impacted by emotions.
Well, that brings up a really great point, and that is that there are plenty of television shows on CNBC and on Bloomberg, and people seem to love some of those shows, and they take away a lot from the shows. And I just want to know whether you think that's right or is that wrong. Should you be listening to those shows? Because, we're dealing with sensationalism. So I don't want to mention any names because, you can imagine
Jim Cramer.
why. But, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me.
There you go.
All right. Yeah. My husband, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm bringing in a personal point right now. He loves Cramer. He thinks he's the greatest thing. He reads all his books. He really believes in what he says. But what do you think about that?
Okay. I have a fairly strong opinion about that. Cramer is a very successful individual before he went on television. Graduated from a great school, Harvard, and has built himself a nice empire, so to speak. Cramer in that realm, Cramer who writes books, Cramer who's on The Motley Fool, because I think he helped co-found that, is the Cramer you should be listening to. The Cramer on television is a guy you just want to put on mute because that's just theatrics. All theatrics. It's just to draw in an audience. So I think his products are fairly good. I haven't obviously read all his books, but so your husband's onto something there in terms of the guy knows what he's doing, but keep in mind it's like watching the Kardashians and asking if that's a great way to raise your family. Well, TV show, what do you expect? So Cramer to me is a TV show.
Right.
But again, the Motley Fool I think has a lot of information that's good.
Yeah. All right. So now, what about young people? I'm talking about like college students. Should they get involved in the market? Because, they have to pay a lot of money to go to the universities. Is that a great way for them to raise some money? And would you recommend that they do something specific when they're starting investing?
Well, that's kind of a multifaceted question. And what I mean is, should they try to trade to pay their way through college? I don't know if I would say that. But in terms of getting into the markets and learning the markets, every person on the planet should get into the markets. Why? Because I'm assuming that the average person would like to retire someday, and the greatest wealth builder in this country is the stock market. It's proven it's even higher than real estate. So to have a home and invest in the market are your two biggest ways to build wealth in this country or in this world. So the younger you start, the better off you do. One of the things that really always just, and still to this day, boggles my mind is you'll have somebody, whether they make $30,000 a year or $3 million a year, they work hard, they save money, they work, they save, they save. Boom, 50, 60, 70 years old comes around. Okay, here, Mr. Investment Advisor, take all my money, leave me alone, get me 8% a year. Right. So you just worked 40 years for all this money, and you just handed it over to somebody you barely know and completely trust now. Well, it would behoove you to know a little bit about the stock market, investing, the general basics at least, hopefully more than that if you start in college. So, I think it's extremely important that everybody learns it, particularly if you're in college, because let's be honest, and I don't want to get too far off topic, college doesn't teach you very much about real life. I went to Boston College, and I don't remember even having a single course that said 3% interest rate is good versus 10%. They just don't talk about real life.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me, but So yes, I would say yes, college students should learn about investing.
All right. So now if people want to get in touch with you, Jared, and they want to learn a little bit more about trading and they want to kind of work with your company, how do they do that?
They would go to livetraders.com, and we have a free ebook. Like I said, it's free, so you can download the ebook. It's about 80 pages. It covers options, it covers Forex, it covers stock trading, day trading, long-term investments, a little bit of everything in there. If you have any questions, you can email us at info @livetraders.com, or you can shoot me an email at Jared, Jared, @livetraders.com. So those are the kind of the best ways to get a hold of us. Our phone number is on the website, 800-947-4027. So those are kind of the three best ways to get a hold of us.
Well, my guest today has been Jared R. Wesley. He's the co-founder of Live Traders, a professional trader with more than 11 years experience, and boy, he knows his stuff. So if you want to think about who you can invest with, I told you he knows a lot about the stock market, and I have a suspicion we can trust him a lot. So thank you so very much, Jared R. Wesley, for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Thank you, Susan, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.